The deadliest natural disaster in American history was caused by water. Most people hear that and picture a flood somewhere inland, a river jumping its banks, a dam giving way. The disaster happened on an island off the Texas coast, and that island is still selling real estate today. But that is not where this list starts, because the city sitting at number 1 on this countdown has a different kind of cover story. It has a university, a friendly reputation, and home prices that look like a deal. It produced a scientist whose tornado research helped build the damage scale that classifies every twister that touches down in this country. And it is statistically one of the least safe large cities in Texas, a fact that does not appear on a single listing. Most people filtering by price and school-town vibe have no idea. They assume the friendly reputation is the full picture. It is not even close to being the full picture. This channel does not run the brochure version. We dig into what the listing price is actually buying. The data, the history, the industrial risk, the infrastructure that isn't there. And we put it in front of you straight. If that is the kind of honest look at Texas you want, hit subscribe before we get into this. We earn it every entry. 12 cities. Cheap on paper. Complicated everywhere else. Let's count them down. Number 12, Bay City. Matagorda County sits on the coastal plain southwest of Houston, and Bay City is its seat. A quiet, Gulf-adjacent town of about 17,000 people with a median property value near $172,900 as of 2024. On the surface, it reads like a find. Affordable, small, away from the Houston congestion. Then you look at what the horizon is actually holding. The South Texas Project Nuclear Station is just down the road, one of the largest nuclear facilities in the country. The surrounding economy leans on that plant and on a ring of chemical operations in the area, and if either stumbles, Bay City has no fallback industry large enough to catch it. There is no second economic engine. There is no diversified employment base waiting in the wings. Your job security and the plant's operating license are running on the same track. Here is the catch nobody puts in the listing search summary. The biggest risks in Bay City do not show up in the crime report at all. They hum on the horizon every morning, and they build in the atmosphere overhead on a bad wind day. And the town sits directly in Hurricane Alley with almost no high ground to speak of. The coastal plain here is flat. Your evacuation route is a long, exposed drive with no elevation to retreat to, because there is none. Picture this. You are driving to work on a calm Tuesday. The cooling towers are on your left, visible for miles. The air is clear. Nothing about the morning feels dangerous. That is exactly the version of Bay City that shows up in listings. The storm season and the plant-dependent paycheck are the version that shows up after you sign. The danger here doesn't knock. It just sits on the horizon and waits. Number 11, Robstown. Just west of Corpus Christi in Nueces County, population around 11,000. The poverty rate here runs near 31%, among the highest in the region. That number has roots. Generations of limited economic investment, gang activity tied to its position on trafficking corridors running north from the border, and neighboring unincorporated colonias that still lack proper drainage, paved roads, and reliable water service in parts. This is not a question of remote rural hardship. Corpus Christi is a short drive away. The proximity is the whole problem. You searched for cheap homes near Corpus Christi. Robstown came up. The listing price looked right. The map showed it practically inside the metro area. What the map did not show is that a Corpus Christi address comes with infrastructure, city services, and a different baseline of public safety. A Robstown address looks similar on the search results and delivers something else entirely on move-in day. The colonias nearby are not an abstraction. They reflect decades of underinvestment that a listing description does not have space for, or incentive to include. Translation? You are not buying proximity to Corpus Christi. You are buying distance from its standards, priced to look like the same thing. Proximity to a better city is not the same as being in one. Number 10, Killeen. Bell County, Central Texas, sitting hard against Fort Cavazos, one of the largest Army installations in the country. Population around 150,000. Median home value near $210,000. Those prices look reasonable until you understand the mechanism producing them. The entire local economy runs downstream of the base. Housing demand rises and falls with deployment cycles, not with any organic local growth. A transfer order hits your neighbor, the house across the street goes vacant, and the rental market shifts in a month. Repeat that cycle across an entire city, and you start to understand why the prices look stable, but the community underneath never quite settles. The violent crime rate runs around 528 per 100,000, roughly 47% above the national figure. That is not a rounding error. That is a structural condition tied to population churn, financial stress, and the particular pressures of a transient military economy. In 1991, a man drove his pickup truck through the plate glass window of a Luby's cafeteria in this city and killed 23 people. At the time, it was the deadliest mass shooting in American history. The town absorbed that event, kept going, kept being cheap, kept drawing people who needed an affordable place close to a paycheck. That is the Killeen story in one motion. Hard things happen, the price stays low, people keep arriving. The stability you are buying is as durable as the Pentagon's budget priorities. When the base mission changes, or contracts, or shifts, and they do, the town finds out with you still in the house. Killeen isn't a real estate market. It's a barracks with a zip code. Number 9, Amarillo. The Panhandle. Population around 200,000. Hours across flat. Open plains from any other significant city in any direction. That isolation is not incidental to the price. It is the price's entire explanation. The property crime rate here runs around 2,866 per 100,000, well above the national average. The downtown corridor never fully recovered from the collapse of Route 66, which once made Amarillo a waypoint and left it, once the traffic rerouted, more exposed than it had ever been. The economic backbone now runs through meatpacking plants and cattle feedlots. Operations that employ a low-wage, high-turnover workforce and ring the city in a way you notice before you see them. On the wrong wind, the smell from the feedlots reaches your yard. That is not a complaint from a sensitive resident. It is a documented meteorological feature of living in Amarillo. You will know which way the wind is blowing before your first winter is out. But the isolation is the sharper problem. The nearest specialist in certain medical fields is a long drive. The nearest major airport with competitive fares is not close. If something goes wrong, medically, professionally, personally, the options that would exist in a connected city require, here, a commitment of time and highway miles that changes the math on every emergency. Amarillo is cheap because it is far from everything. And far from everything is exactly the problem when you need something. Isolation is a feature on the listing and a bug in the fine print. Number 8, Waco. McLennan County, on the Brazos between Dallas and Austin. Population around 140,000. You have seen the television version, the shiplap, the market, the coffee shops, the carefully framed exterior shots. It is a genuinely appealing visual. It is also a curated one. The violent crime rate in Waco runs around 426 per 100,000, several percent above the state average, with pockets of the city running far higher than that. Those numbers exist alongside the branding, not in opposition to it. The branding just does not acknowledge them, and the history sits right under the surface. In 1993, a federal siege at the Branch Davidian compound outside town lasted 51 days and ended in a fire that killed around 76 people. In 2015, a shootout between rival biker gangs at a local restaurant left 9 dead. 2 of the most widely reported violent events in modern Texas took place within driving distance of the Magnolia storefront, and neither one appears in the renovation narrative. The television show remodeled Waco's national reputation the way you renovate a kitchen. New surface, same structure underneath. Picture this, you moved for the aesthetic. The coffee shop is exactly what it looked like online. A short drive from the market, in a direction the cameras have never pointed, the neighborhood the show skipped is still there, still carrying the numbers it always carried. That drive is maybe 10 minutes. Television remodeled Waco's reputation but left the foundation untouched. You have seen the Army town and the TV town. But coming up, there is a barrier island that has already been completely erased once by water, and people are still signing mortgages on it today. Number 7, San Angelo. Tom Green County, West Texas. Population around 100,000. This is genuine island city territory. not surrounded by water, but by distance, which in West Texas functions the same way. Built around the old cavalry post of Fort Concho, the city now runs on oil services work and Goodfellow Air Force Base, which means its economic stability is tied to two variables neither residents nor city planners fully control: crude prices and federal defense budgets. When oil falls, San Angelo feels it before the news reports catch up. The local economy contracts faster than a diversified metro would, and there is no adjacent industry large enough to cushion the drop. Property crime runs above the national average, not extreme by Texas standards, but present and rising when the economic cycle turns. The distance is the real ledger item. A medical emergency here is not the same calculation as a medical emergency in a city connected to a regional hospital network. A serious diagnosis, a specialist referral, a situation that requires the second opinion. Every one of those involves a long drive across open West Texas, and the drive is not optional. You are not choosing between driving and taking the train. You are choosing between driving and not going. The same distance that makes the land cheap makes every setback harder to climb out of. Wide open land is a fine view until it's the only thing between you and the nearest hospital. Number 6, Wichita Falls, northern Texas, near the Oklahoma line. Population around 100,000, though the count has been moving in one direction. At its peak in the mid-2010s, the city held about 105,000 people. It is closer to 102,000 now. That trajectory is worth understanding before you read the listing price and call it a deal. On April 10th, 1979, a day locals still call Terrible Tuesday, a tornado from the Red River outbreak tore through Wichita Falls and killed 42 people. One of the deadliest single tornadoes in Texas history. The city rebuilt, which says something real about its people, and the town has carried on. But it sits in direct tornado corridor territory, and the rebuilt version has not relocated to safer ground, because there is no safer ground on offer in this part of the state. The economy leans heavily on Shepherd Air Force Base, which creates the same dependency pattern visible in Killeen and San Angelo, a base-adjacent town where the federal government holds the largest single lever over local employment. The summers here are brutal by almost any measure, with heat streaks that have set records, and the population data reflects a slow, steady verdict that residents have been rendering with moving trucks for years. The town is cheap and shrinking simultaneously. A falling price and a falling population are sometimes trying to tell you the same thing. Number 5, Pharr, Hidalgo County, deep in the Rio Grande Valley, close to the border. Population around 80,000. The median household income here runs near $52,800, far below the Texas state figure, and somewhere between 25 and 33% of residents live in poverty. Surrounding colonias still lack full infrastructure in places: drainage, paved roads, water reliability. These are not legacy complaints about distant history. They describe conditions that exist now in the immediate area. Pharr is a major commercial border crossing. That designation brings truck traffic, logistics, employment, and the economic activity that flows from being a choke point in a massive binational supply chain. It also brings the pressures that come with being a choke point on a smuggling route, which is a different kind of activity running through the same infrastructure. The cost of living is genuinely low by Texas standards. That is not an illusion. But the wages here are lower still. The gap between what things cost and what jobs pay is narrow enough that without a Spanish-speaking network already in place, without a job in the border economy already lined up, the budget math that looked manageable from the outside starts tightening in ways the listing price never suggested. Affordable and isolated are not the same problem, but in Pharr, they arrive together. Number 4, Corpus Christi, Nueces County, Gulf Coast, population around 316,000. The bayfront view is legitimately beautiful. That is not a concession. It is a fact. The water is there, the sunsets are real, and the appeal is not manufactured. Neither is what sits behind it. The ship channel running through Corpus Christi is lined with some of the largest oil refineries and petroleum export terminals in the country. Air quality monitoring stations downwind of that corridor flag elevated readings on a regular basis. The word regular is doing real work in that sentence. This is not an occasional industrial event. This is the operating condition of the city. You open the windows on a bayfront morning, and whether you leave them open depends on which way the wind is coming from. The violent crime rate here runs around 864 per 100,000, well over 100% above the Texas state average. 27 murders in a recent tracked year. The city has been hammered by weather. Hurricane Celia leveled it in 1970, and Harvey made landfall just up the coast in 2017 and reminded everyone of the exposure. A bayfront property in Corpus Christi is priced the way it is partly because of what surrounds it, petrochemically and meteorologically, and the listing does not include a wind direction chart. A view of the water is worth less when the air between you and it is being monitored. 4 towns left, and the one sitting at number 1 has a reputation so clean and friendly that it has been hiding its own crime numbers behind a welcome sign for years. Stay with us. Number 3, Baytown, Harris County, east side of Houston's Ship Channel. Population around 85,000. This city's danger does not primarily come from the crime report. It comes from the chemistry of what surrounds it. Baytown is home to one of the largest refining and petrochemical complexes in the United States. The corridor it sits in carries a long record: plant fires, flaring events, toxic releases. In 2019, a major tank farm fire near the area sent a black plume across the region that lasted for days. You can look up the footage. The plume was visible for miles. Residents in surrounding neighborhoods were told to shelter in place and then told what shelter in place means when the hazard is airborne. The town floods in every significant storm. The geography is flat, the ground is saturated, and the proximity to the ship channel means that what the floodwater picks up on its way through is not just rain. Your house is cheap because it is positioned downwind and downstream of the industry that employs the town. And there is no fence line disclosure in your listing documents. No line item that says industrial neighbor, flaring history, flood zone, proximity to stored hazardous materials. None of that appears. If you bought cheap in Baytown and want to understand what you bought, start with the air quality records and the TCEQ incident log for the corridor. That is the document the listing did not provide. No police blotter tracks what comes out of a smokestack at 3 a.m. Number 2, Galveston, a barrier island south of Houston. Population around 53,000. The tourist version is real. The beaches are there, the Victorian architecture is there, the seafood is there, and the history is also there, underneath every square foot of it. In September 1900, a hurricane came ashore and killed somewhere between 6,000 and 12,000 people on this island. The range exists because the count was that difficult. It remains the deadliest natural disaster in the recorded history of the United States. The city rebuilt. It constructed a seawall, an impressive engineering project built entirely in response to the scale of what had already happened. It dredged sand and raised the grade of the island by several feet to improve drainage. People came back. Mortgages were signed. And in 2008, Hurricane Ike swamped it again. Not with the same death toll, but with the same message. The island is a barrier island. That is its geological identity. It absorbs what the Gulf sends. The seawall holds what it holds. The storms that exceed its design parameters are not hypothetical. One of them already happened once and came back for a second visit within living memory. Every mortgage payment on this island is an installment on a bet that the seawall holds. The city has a tourist economy and real crime in its harder neighborhoods and a flood and rebuild cycle that is older than the Texas state government. The ocean erased this island within recorded history. It has a longer memory than any title search. The seawall is impressive, and the storm that made it necessary was more impressive still. Number 1, Lubbock, South Plains. Population around 260,000, home of Texas Tech. A college town with a church-going, community-minded reputation that is genuinely felt by the people who live there. None of that is wrong, and none of it appears in the crime data. The violent crime rate in Lubbock runs around 821 per 100,000, more than double the national figure. The property crime rate runs near 2,629 per 100,000, roughly 50% above the national average. Taken together, those numbers put Lubbock among the highest combined crime totals of any large Texas city. The city sits at the intersection of 2 major interstate corridors and has been documented as a regional distribution hub for methamphetamine moving across those routes. That fact does not appear in the Chamber of Commerce materials. In 1970, an F5 tornado tore through downtown Lubbock and killed 26 people. The damage it left behind was studied by a scientist whose analysis of the destruction patterns contributed to the development of the tornado intensity scale that meteorologists still use today. The town that helped the country build a framework for measuring danger is, by the data, one of the most dangerous large cities in Texas. That is not an irony the welcome sign is designed to communicate. Here is what the numbers actually describe. You filtered by price, by school town reputation, by the kind of surface texture that reads as safe. The university, the churches, the familiar Midwestern affect of a South Plains city. And you landed in a place where the crime rate is more than double the national figure. The listing said nothing about it. The friendly reputation actively worked against your ability to find it. The welcome is genuine. The gap between the welcome and the data is also genuine. Both things are true, and only one of them is easy to locate before you sign. The most dangerous place to live is the one that convinced you it wasn't. Every city on this list is selling something. Affordability, a waterfront view, a college town feeling, a fresh start, a price that finally fits the budget. And every one of them is burying what that price is actually buying. Somewhere in the air quality records, the crime data, the base closure history, the hurricane track maps, the places the listing just does not go. If you have lived in one of these towns, drop your honest take in the comments. What does the listing never tell you? Texas has another list hiding in plain sight. The towns that look rough on the surface but are quietly some of the safest places to land in this state. That one comes next. If you want it when it drops, you know what to do.